Researchers in Nova Scotia are testing the use of green gravel technology in an effort to develop techniques to help them restore kelp beds. Joining us for a closer look from Halifax this morning is Stephen O'Leary, research team lead with the National Research Council. Great to have you in on this story. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Just as a setup for people at home, Nova Scotia's kelp beds are steadily declining. In fact, in 2022, researchers documented an 85 to 99% decline in kelp biomass over the past 4 to 6 decades of the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia. Why are we seeing this loss, Stephen?
Well, we're seeing the loss in Nova Scotia, but unfortunately, it's not just a local issue on the east coast of Canada. We're seeing loss of kelp bed worldwide. And there's a number of reasons why we may be losing kelp beds, but the most likely explanation is kelp is a cold water group of underwater seaweeds. And so kelp thrives in the cold waters of the North Atlantic or the South Pacific. And as we see coastal water temperatures increase year over year in the North Atlantic in our case, but also in the North Pacific and in southern oceans, we're seeing at the same time a decrease in the number of kelp populations that are occurring in the large stands or forests where we would normally see them off our coastline.
And kelp is important because it pulls nutrients from the water, but it also provides an ecosystem for things in the water. Your research is aimed at developing a restoration technique for kelp beds, and it uses green gravel technology. So explain to us what that is.
That's right. So kelp is important because it's the architecture of our marine environment. It provides the habitat in which fish and crustaceans and other marine animals are able to take shelter. They're able to lay their eggs, raise their young, and find food. And as we see decreases in these kelp forests or kelp beds, we have to find a way to try to replace those kelp to maintain that architecture, maintain that superstructure. And so what we're doing is we're taking reproductive kelp from the wild. We're causing that kelp to release numerous numbers of spores in a laboratory environment and having those spores settle on small pieces of gravel that can be then put back out into the natural kelp populations to reseed those kelp ecosystems, much like you'd broadcast grass seed on your lawn in the spring to fill in thin patches.
So you plant, if I understand this right, you plant spores in a shipping container, and that is designed for producing green gravel. And what's the technology that's behind it?
Well, I should mention something about the shipping container. So our project involves a number of partners, including Cascadia Seaweed, which is an innovator from the west coast of Canada, who created this green gravel production facility. So it's a lab in a shippable box, a shipping container in this case, that can be deployed anywhere in the world where you'd like to do a kelp restoration project. So this shipping container lab was built in British Columbia, shipped into Nova Scotia, where we're doing the restoration experiments with additional partners, which include Marinov from the province of Quebec and Ecology Action Centre, also here from Nova Scotia. So collectively, we're working on the technology to seed Nova Scotia kelp on gravel locally that could be used for restoration projects here in the North Atlantic.
Yeah, I love that this is a made-in-Canada solution for a worldwide problem. Very cool. Looking beyond Mahone Bay, how can this research be then applied to other parts of the country or even the world that are also seeing significant loss in kelp beds?
So we're certainly not the only group in the world that's working on kelp restoration or even deploying green gravel as a strategy for replanting kelp forests. So that the technology is widely applicable. It can be used to restore different species of kelp in different parts of the world. It's the mobility of the green gravel production facility that's really innovative here. The fact that all of the technology that's required to seed kelp onto a substrate that can be put in the ocean is contained within that container, and that container or others like it can really be shipped anywhere where you have a coastline where you can access some reproductive kelp material and the seawater required to cultivate juvenile kelp in the lab, so that you can bulk up this seed bank or your inoculated gravel to return that gravel back out into the ecosystem that you're trying to either preserve or restore.
I love seeing what's happening in our country about a problem that we may not see, but definitely are going to be affected by. Stephen O'Leary, thanks for joining us from Halifax this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.